You sound like a confused Christian. I don't know what this Islam or Muslim is, but you're very close. You've almost got it down. You're that close, you know? So I think, I'll go ahead and save somebody before I go to seminary, right? I tried to convert my Muslim friend. Well, my journey to Islam began my senior year in college when I decided I wanted to become a Baptist preacher. I decided not to quit college and go to seminary, but to finish my degree and then go to seminary. So I had 1 year to finish. And because of my enthusiasm, I just started dragging all of my friends, colleagues, everybody I met into a religious conversation so that I could think about how I could practice saving people, right? The whole mission would be to convert them to Christianity. So how would I relate to other faiths and be able to convince them of Christianity? So as an entertainment, that's what I did my senior year, was just ask people, what do you believe and why? And I would listen. Then I made friends with a Muslim. I'd made friends with him earlier, but I never talked about religion. So now I ask him, what do you believe? And he said, I'm Muslim. And back in the 80s when I was in college, I didn't know what that even meant, really. It just, what is that? Is it a cult? Is it a religion? Is what I'm thinking. He said, I'm Muslim, and he started telling me what he believes. And after a couple of minutes, I'm still listening. In that process, I started with 100% conviction. Then I started to learn how we have the Bible. When you start to look at how do we know this is what Moses said, Jesus said, the prophet said, then you look at the copies or the historical documents. Well, to my surprise, the New Testament, there are no original manuscripts in Aramaic, which is the language of Palestine during the time of Jesus. There are no documents in Hebrew, which he was a Jew, and they preserved their messages prior to and everything in Hebrew. So we have nothing in Hebrew, nothing in Aramaic. The only documents we have are in Greek and later in Latin. I said, Muslims don't eat pork, so when you're making dinner or whatever, don't give it to me. Just leave it. She's like, what have you got? I mean, she gives me this sad look and a little upset. And then, like, I joined a cult, really, is what she's thinking. And she's like, I'm not going to do this. And she goes on about what she's not going to. I said, don't worry about you. Do what you want. Just let me be happy. I read a few pages later, and it says, Muslim men don't wear gold. Well, I already had a gold wedding band picked out. I went to her, I said, hey, can we change this band to silver? She took off her engagement ring and threw it across her room and said, I'm not gonna, and she gets upset, and then she calms down, and then and I'm like, okay, but she goes on. Long story short, we ended up I talked her into going to a mosque and getting Islamically married, and I went to church and got through the whole wedding that we already had planned. So 2 weddings. But she was just tolerating me. She really liked me, but she thought what I was doing was weird. And I met the Muslim community in Omaha, and they invited me in. They treated me like a rock star, like, hey, you're white, you're a Muslim, we love you. You know, I was happy to find that they had a library in the mosque with books on comparative religion or dawah videos or Christian debates with Muslims over the years. I mean, just a lot of stuff that was very good. So I started borrowing it and taking it home and reading it and then telling my wife, look what I learned, look what I learned. And she'd listen. And for a while, then 5-10 minutes, she'd be like, that's it, I don't want to hear anymore, I'm done. Let's just leave me alone. But one day I come home, and this is after several months of me reading, watching videos, doing things. I'm all pumped up. I'm a Muslim. I'm doing it. And she sees some changes in me, right? So it's not threatening her. She's just observing. And she goes, I want to meet other Muslims. I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough for you, right? So I go to the mosque and I say, hey, my wife said she wants to meet other Muslims. What do you think? They said, well, brother, we have a halaqah, right? A bunch of families get together at a house on Friday and we do tafsir of the Quran, a little bit of discussion, then we eat and then we pray and we go home. He said, why don't you just bring her to the halaqah? We can all visit. I said, great. So we go to the first halaqah. And this is the first time she's seen Muslim women and children and men all interacting in a normal, everyday environment. And she enjoyed it. It was like, that was something that she hadn't expected. I don't know what she expected, but it was like positive for her. So we go to 1 or 2 of these halaqahs in a row. And the next time we're going, she goes, would it be okay if I pray with you guys this time? And I'm thinking, okay, You want to be no, I don't want to be a Muslim. But every time you guys all stop and get up and pray, I'm sitting watching. Something inside of me wants me to join. Like, I'd like to be part of that. That would be cool. So I'm like, yeah, you can just join. Just, get in line and follow. She doesn't even know what to say. She's just mimicking the movement, but wanted to be part of the prayer. I'm like, okay. A few more halakas. And I come home one day and she goes, I think I'm ready. I go, ready for what? To be a Muslim. But I'm not going. She's gives me this list of things she's not going to do. Taking the Shahada was just mechanical for me, but immediately after becoming Muslim, you notice something that you never noticed in your life before. So that's a peace, a tranquility, a comfort. Allah says He puts love in our heart, whatever you want to call that. You feel it. And you didn't know that you had this barrier. Like between me and anybody else in my life, there's always some level of barrier that you keep. And you don't even really notice it, right? And I mean, they're friends. They're my friends. I do everything with them. When you become Muslim and you say Salaam Alaikum to a stranger, or you meet someone you know, and that feeling that you have, you notice something's missing. And it's that barrier that you've always had that you didn't know was there. And once it leaves, you will really have that. It's a spiritual connection that doesn't exist prior to becoming Muslim. And it is a very addictive feeling. My parents at first tolerated, looking happy for me or whatever, thinking it's a phase, he'll get over it, right? It's just something he's going through. He's young, he's stupid, he'll move on. So there was no friction in our family. Her family was a little more reserved. Her father was so upset with her that he you'd say, disowned her. But she was married, she had me, she didn't need him, for anything but being a father. So they didn't talk for like 10 years. And her father was already divorced from her mother, so they were living separately. Her mother was like, if you're happy, I'm happy. But her mother was very uncomfortable going out in public when my wife started covering. So when she's covering and she's like asking, you can take it off when you're with me, right? And she was worried about the views of other people on her. But it was a minor issue and she eventually just got used to it. And her father eventually came to not only to terms, but friends with her. And then he, in his old age, moved in with us. We took care of him until he died. So their relationship ended on the highest note. It was a little awkward at first, but I've heard horror stories, so I was lucky. We were lucky. What you love about the Prophet is he dealt with every issue we face today, whether it's media or abuse or violence or rhetoric with his own family, his own community. We have superheroes in the American tradition, right? Every superhero you can imagine. Well, the reason you have superheroes is people see the limitations of each other, right? And none of us have those superhero qualities. So if we could fix things, we would have a superhero intervene and make things right. Well, when you understand that one man in a desert received a revelation at a time of extreme ignorance and violence and everything you can think of, and how it resonated from one person to the entire world in such a short period of time, that superhero of how to affect change through himself, his companions, through the followers, is more inspiring than a mythical or a fictional character. So you kind of replace your heroes with real people. Can I read my answer? I thought about this for a second, and will not help them on the day of judgment. When you're standing alone facing your Lord or your Creator, belief is a personal decision that everyone must face. You need to answer, why am I here? Where am I going? What should I do? No one's responsible for your accountability, nor are they going to participate in your success. A strong conviction in faith will overcome any obstacle, barriers, or reactions. Once you connect your head and your heart, you will find an unshakable peace and unshakable strength. So if you're worried about others' reactions, don't be. Act with sincerity, conviction, and trust that God will be there every step of the way. He already is.